Hi, it's Liz. Welcome to the Capital Coffee Connection podcast. And today I am very excited because I have Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers. And before I introduce him, I just want to give everybody a little background, the reason why we do this podcast. My goal is that we talk to our elected leaders about their heart and their humanity, the home they come from, and to really have conversations that are about people. So we do not talk about politics and policy, but we really speak about who we are as people. And I think the more we do this, especially in days when we have crazy news and crazy things going on, it gives all of us a little bit of a moment to pause and realize that we're sort of all in this together and that we share a lot more in common that actually then separates us. So on that note, I am excited to introduce Tony Evers, who is the 46th governor of Wisconsin. And, one of the things that I was thinking about when I was going to introduce you, and I'm going to let you speak in a moment, but was just like that you're a teacher and you basically come to this work from many years of teaching and being in education. You were a superintendent, the Wisconsin State Superintendent of Public Instruction. And that I think as you lead, that is pretty much the experience that you carry with you. And I would love to just kind of start by saying thank you, welcome. And I've picked 3 adjectives, and I'd love for you to think about them, about who you are. You are a dedicated leader, you're a compassionate person, and you are very down to earth. And on that note, I would just love it if you would give a little introduction about who you are and as being the governor of the great state of Wisconsin.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I appreciate it. And I'll start from the beginning. I was born and raised in a small town in Wisconsin, Plymouth, which is the cheese capital of the world, by the way. I'm sure you knew that. And my parents were both healthcare providers. My father was a physician and my mother was a nurse. And my father actually ran a tuberculosis sanatorium back in the days when tuberculosis was a major issue. And so and back then, if you run a tuberculosis sanatorium for the county, you live on the grounds. And so I was born, and not born on that hospital, but raised on the tuberculosis sanatorium grounds. And after tuberculosis became less of an issue, it became a long-term nursing facility. And so lived there, frankly, when I was young kid. I worked there as, answering the phones, mowing the lawn, all that kind of stuff. And so we went to high school in Plymouth, Wisconsin, small little town, met my wife in kindergarten, actually.
Yeah, wait a second. I read that you met your wife in kindergarten. Did you start dating back then or did you wait,
Hardly. Even if there was any thought of that, my wife would have said no. But our first date was junior prom.
Oh, wow.
So we've been married 53-ish years, I believe, and have 5 kids and 9 grandkids. And so,
Wow.
we're just typical Wisconsinites. I went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison and got 3 degrees there. And here I am, governor of the state of Wisconsin.
So what is a typical Wisconsinite? Can you talk a little bit about it? Because I think that, people that watch this are from all over the country, all over the world. What makes a person a typical Wisconsinite?
Well, I love the Packers. Yes, Green Bay Packers are something that's uniformly loved in the state of Wisconsin. They love sports, but just my view of the world is that Wisconsinites are really hardworking people, whether they're working in a manufacturing place, working on farm, you name it. We have a very good economy in the state of Wisconsin, and there's lots of different people that make up our workforce and our families. And we have a great mix of people, and they're hardworking. They care about the right things.
Wisconsin also is called the Badger State, and it's America's Dairyland.
Correct, yes. Don't see many badgers anymore, but actually there's an interesting story about that. Badgers are kind of mean animals that burrow into the ground, and we were named the Badger State because in the old days in southwest Wisconsin, they had mining. And so the miners were considered badgers because they burrowed into the ground and got the whatever metal that they got out of the ground. So that's how we became a Badger state. We do have Badgers here, but it was primarily around the miners.
Right. And I read also somewhere about you that your first job was like scraping what was that? Scraping something off of the cheese?
Right, mold. Back in the days, in fact, I didn't realize this until I became governor. Usually when cheese is processed and cut into smaller pieces, it comes in 40-pound block of cheese. Back then, when it's aged, it gets mold on it. So before you process it and cut it into smaller pieces or whatever, you have to scrape the mold off the cheese. And so my first job was working at a factory this was in high school. I scraped mold off cheese. And actually, I didn't like cheese until I worked in a cheese factory. And I had the opportunity not only scrape the mold off the cheese, I could scrape another little piece that was clean off of it. And I ate it. So
So it was a very glamorous first job.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The pay wasn't bad, though.
Let me ask you this. I know that you're a teacher, but I ask all of the people I've spoken with, because I believe teachers have been influential in most people's lives, especially in leaders' lives. Going back to high school or college, and obviously you have multiple degrees, but do you have like a teacher or an experience that you could share with everyone that was meaningful, that to this moment is still something that you call upon or that is part of you?
Yeah, it's interesting you bring it up because I hardly ever talk about this, but I had a teacher in high school named Dale Paskey. He was a history teacher. I liked history, obviously, I still do. But the interesting thing with Mr. Paskey, he had two things. One, when he got angry, his face turned as red as a beet. So behind his back, we call him the beet. But the most important thing about him was his teaching style. And I think most people don't realize, if you look at different history books, you'll find different ways of explaining things that happen over time that the author of that history book had a little different spin on it than the other ones. And so what he would do is, whether it's a war that he was talking about or some other issue, he took 3 or 4 books and said, this historian had it explained this way, this one that way. And so he said, I learned as history has multiple meanings. And I think that's important for people to understand. And frankly, it made an impact on me. And he passed away several years ago, but he was a good teacher, and I still remember that lesson.
Yeah. From all that, did you, as a governor, do you give advice to young people because they look at you and they're like, he's not only our governor, but he's also a teacher? Do you find that that's?
I think that just kind of comes naturally. I don't go out of my way to talk about all the wisdom that I have in my head because there isn't much left. But I will say that I always offer advice. They usually ask for it too.
What do you think is the best advice that you've given, or the best advice you've been told?
Yeah, and I'll say given is that young people need to, especially at the high school level, explore. And also, the Dale Paskey thing is that there's different ways of looking at different issues. You just have to be open to it. And, can you come down on one side of something? Of course. But there's just different views, and historians have shown us that.
And what's the best or the worst advice you've ever received?
Don't run for governor.
Well, obviously you didn't listen to that advice, and I'm not sure if it's the best or the worst.
That's right. I can't really think of any advice people have given me that was particularly horrible.
Yeah.
I've always been someone that looks at all the different options and then do the best you can and feels confident that what you're doing is right.
That's a good one. I think feeling confident about yourself and doing what you think is right is really important.
Yeah.
It's your North Star.
I mean, it's easy if you make a decision and you get a lot of flack and you start to you think about, oh my God, that was a horrible decision. Well, no, maybe the response is horrible. I mean, the bottom line is you have to kind of fall down on the side or come down on the side of what you believe is right, and life goes on.
Yeah, I think that's just part of aging and experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I read, and I'm going to say this word wrong, that you also play euchre.
Yeah, you got that right.
Okay,
Yes.
so I got euchre correct. And what is it about euchre? Because I did watch a video to see what the game was all about, and it seems like it's intriguing. But what is it about euchre of all card games that makes it your favorite?
Well, I think, there's a lot of strategy there, but if you become a pretty active euchre player, and I don't know even if I fall in that category anymore, but
Yeah.
you have plenty of time to talk to the people around the table. I mean, the game isn't all that complex, but you can talk about all sorts of things that are complex while you're playing. So it's kind of I don't want to say it's a no-brainer game, but it's not all that complex, and you can get to know the people that you're playing against and playing with, and frankly, it's a great family game too. I mean, it's an opportunity for my grandkids and kids to be highly critical of me while we're playing euchre.
Oh, that's a good thing. So you play cards, and then they can tease you and be critical.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's part of the. I think that's a sport in itself. I have that in my home, so I can
Yes.
relate to it.
Yeah. It's what family's all about.
Exactly. Okay, and one more thing that I read, just to clarify if this is true. Are you a polka dancer?
Yes. Yes. I was much better at one point in time in my life, but yes, when Kathy and I got married, we had a live polka band, and we had 650 people at our reception, and everybody was dancing polka, and there was beer splattered all over the floor. And it was a high time in Plymouth, Wisconsin. I'll tell you that. Yeah, we've
I'd like
danced.
a video of that. That sounds spectacular.
It was something. But it's polkas. I still do it occasionally, and we just don't have the opportunity. I had the opportunity after my last speech. One of the new Democrats on the floor decided to come over and polka with me after the
Nice.
event. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, now we're going to switch to rapid questions. You can answer in a word, or you can add something, but this is just to get to know Tony.
Yep.
What is your favorite sound?
Silence.
Wow. Favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite scent or smell?
Pizza. Smelling pizza.
It's a good one. Who is your biggest cheerleader?
Oh, my wife, Kathy, for sure.
I imagine that it's a lot of work to be the wife of the governor.
Yeah, it's a pain. Yeah. I think she does things with me and for the administration that, frankly, she'd rather be doing something else. But yeah,
But she's doing it like you are. You're being public servants. I mean,
Yes,
that's what
yes.
the purpose is, to help people.
Absolutely.
Favorite sports teams? You may have already started that one, but what are they?
Well, I'm a Milwaukee Brewers fan.
Okay.
I love the Packers, obviously, but Brewers for sure.
And are you a cat or a dog person? Do you guys have animals?
We don't have animals now, but I am absolutely not a cat person. I am absolutely a dog person.
Okay.
I'm very, very, very allergic to cat.
Mm-hmm. And what is your favorite meal? You get to pick one meal. What is the best meal?
Probably breakfast.
Okay. And what would you have for breakfast?
Probably something like an egg McMuffin, or you make your own egg McMuffin.
Favorite dessert?
Ice cream, for sure. Soft serve ice cream in particular.
You are famous online for cream puffs. You are aware of that now.
Yes. Yeah, but they don't come around that often. So soft serve ice cream is more available.
Favorite music?
Old rock and roll. Linda Ronstadt is the best singer of all time.
I think she's pretty special. That's a good. You know what? Now that you're saying that, I'll go listen to her again. I haven't heard her for a long time, but she is amazing. I agree.
Yeah, you think of all the different genres she's sang in. There's nobody better.
You know that one of the first concerts I ever went to out in Los Angeles when I was very young was with Linda Ronstadt.
Really? Was she with the Ponies? What were they called? Stone Ponies. They played in San Francisco.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit after that, but still, I just remember seeing her and hearing her sing, and I'm going to check her out again after this on my Spotify. What is your favorite household chore, if you have to do one?
Oh, I do them all the time. I would say washing dishes.
And what is Tony's superpower?
I have to think of that. being quiet when everybody else is talking, especially when they're talking stupidly.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you get to just listen, which is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah,
I always think like the more that people would listen, I think we'd be better off. But
for
people
sure.
seem to be preferring the talking.
For sure. No question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where in the world would you and Kathy go if you could just take off 2 weeks? Where would you both travel to?
Oh, for 2 weeks?
Yeah.
I would say, well, it's hard to say. We haven't traveled a lot. So I would say just a tour of Wisconsin. Just go from one place to another. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm assuming not in the winter.
Yeah, even in the winter.
Even in the winter. Okay.
Sure.
You really love your state.
That's true. There's lots of places to see. Yeah, I'll give you a small example.
Yeah.
There's a place in Luck, Wisconsin that every summer has a fiddler school. I mean, this is a town of about 200 people. They bring in adult fiddlers from across the world to Luck, Wisconsin to teach a bunch of kids how to fiddle. And then they have a concert at the end of the week. We've never been able to go, but if I had a week to go around the state of Wisconsin, I'd do all those type of things. They're just amazing.
It's very special. And also, it talks about who you are as a person, just that story. So thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, you bet.
One of the last ones. Do you have a quote or a mantra that you think about sometimes? Like, when you just gotta like clear your head or to inspire you?
Yeah, it's not necessarily a mantra of anybody else's, but it is more about before a major decision is made, just slow down, because if you go fast, the chances of you making a mistake are exponentially high. So just slow down.
Well said. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is my last question, and this is a question that the answers have been really special and beautiful and interesting. It is, what brings you joy? And if you are joyful, how do you share your joy?
What brings me joy is watching kids and grandkids being successful. Whether it's watching them play basketball or watching them in their careers. That's probably the most important thing. And what was the second question? I think.
Second is like, if you're a joyful person, how do you share that joy? And what does that mean to other people?
Yeah, my wife and I talk to each other about it. We share that joy with each other about what we are observing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah.
So on that note, I'm just going to say first, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming on. And again, I go back to, this is what I think we need to be doing. We should all be doing more of, is having conversations, maybe not in the middle of a card game, but just between each other and reaching out. And I hope that people who are listening feel like they were sitting here with us. I know that one day we're going to have coffee in person, but for right now we're having, virtual conversation. But I think that one of the things I leave from is that, it's just to have a person in your position to lead one of our states who is compassionate and down to earth and dedicated, the 3 adjectives I used. I think people can, through this conversation, really see that's who you are. So I just want to say thank you and for taking the time. And the part I'm going to leave with is the listening, being a better listener, and slowing down and not rushing into something sometimes, and taking just another breath before you run to do something.
Well, thanks so much. You're very kind, and it's an honor to be speaking with you, and take care. We'll stay in touch.
Thank you. Hi, it's Liz. Please join me every Tuesday for coffee to talk about heart and humanity with our elected leaders. Remember to hit subscribe to get an alert when a new episode is live and for exclusive content. Ciao.